I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and this is Mad About Money. And I am here with the lovely Lesley Thomas, who is founder of the Money Confidence Academy. Did I
Hello,
say that right?
Maddy. You said it perfectly, as though you had rehearsed it hundreds of times. You
I only
haven't.
rehearsed it once, like literally 2 seconds
Exactly.
ago, and I went, that's long. Ugh. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on my podcast because we just discovered about a month ago that actually we were doing the same podcast with a different name, but with the same tagline. And I was like, I need to go and change that. So I'm gradually changing mine a little bit. But we both interview people about their money stories,
Yeah,
which I think is really interesting because it's a great thing to interview people about.
absolutely.
But
Yeah,
how many people have interviewed you about your money story?
nobody.
Yay, I get to be
You
the
are the
first
first.
person.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are the first.
So, Lesley, tell me a little bit about you first.
Okay, so as you said, I am the founder of the Money Confidence Academy, but more importantly than that, I am mum to 2 teenage boys. I am a wife to my husband, Steve. I live in Wiltshire. People can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from Wales. I have a very varied career from where I started to where I am now, but that somewhat plays into my money story probably. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll save that for that particular
Save that.
question.
Save that for that question. I want to know where in Wiltshire you are.
Just outside Salisbury.
You are so close to me, it's unreal.
Yeah, I know.
We need
You're
to
in
have a real
Southampton.
we need to have a real life in person like hug
And
and coffee.
exactly. And it would be so easy for us to do that.
It
Yeah.
would. And the lady that had on my podcast said it, she's from Basingstoke. I'm like, why are all these people so close to me? And I didn't know. It's because we live our lives through Zoom now, don't
Oh, we
we?
do.
But
No.
I would absolutely love to do that. Let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
have like a
definitely.
let's have a coffee and a coffee and a chinwag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
let's sort that
fabulous.
out. We'll put that in the diary for afterwards. So the question I ask everybody on this show, but actually I'm starting to move away from asking this question because there's sometimes lots of other questions. What is your money story?
And it is really funny because I asked that exact same question on my podcast. And when that question came to me in the shower back in 2021, when I started my podcast, I thought, well, that's unique. Nobody else is going to be
No.
asking this question, but clearly somebody else is. So I had to think this morning because I say no one's ever asked me that question before. So
Mm.
whilst I clearly think and talk a lot about money, it tends to largely be about other people's relationship with money,
Yeah.
their story with money. And people make an automatic assumption because I'm a mindset coach and because I specialize in money mindset that I must have had history with money. I must have had trauma with money in the past. And I haven't. I've
Okay.
had the ups and downs that every entrepreneur has in terms
Yeah.
of that roller coaster ride of money coming in some months and not coming in other months and people not paying and having to, kind of fight them for the money, etc., etc. But actually, my money story is more based on the confidence and self-confidence that gets overlaid onto your relationship with money. So if I think back to when I was growing up, I had a very normal upbringing. My dad was a police officer. We moved around a lot because in those days, police officers' families were moved around a lot. So I had a history of going into schools, being there for a couple of years, and then moving on to my next school. What that did for me was create a huge sense of confidence to a certain extent because I had the ability to make friends really easily. I had the ability to really create good relationships around me.
Yeah.
But that was further layered by my own mum. My mum was what we called back in the day mindset. The word mindset didn't exist when I was growing up, which was in the 70s and 80s. It was always called positive mental attitude, PMA.
PMA. Yeah.
PMA, exactly. And really, mindset is now what PMA was back then. We've just now got in a new terminology, a new understanding about it. And we we never went abroad, when we were younger, because my mum never had any interest on going on holiday abroad. Doesn't really to this day. So our holidays were once a year, we would go to Butlins. Absolutely loved that holiday, look forward to it every year without fail. I was never aware of us going without, but a policeman's salary will only obviously go so far. I was aware that interest rates had gone up to 15.5% when my parents first had their mortgage, but I had no awareness of whether that was an easy thing for them to negotiate, because money was never really talked about. It was never really an issue. We were encouraged to save. We were encouraged massively to think about our pensions. That was a big thing for my dad in particular. And when I left corporate life, so I went through the usual route of work hard, go to university, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, because that's what my parents had done. They hadn't gone to university, but they'd worked hard, they'd got a job, and they carried on from there. And when I left corporate life 12 years ago, because it just wasn't compatible with me having a young family and working up in London, my dad's first reaction was, what about your pension? And that probably says a lot about the mindset of that generation, that it was all about creating real stability, even if stability came at the cost of freedom, at the cost of doing what you really wanted to do. And for me, being able to spend time with my young family, not having to worry about asking for permission for a day off so I could go to their sports day or their nativity or whatever it might have been, was really, really important. So when I joined my husband in his business, initially that was to be able to carry on having a career whilst being a mum. But actually, and this is really important to me, I wanted to do something that I felt really passionate about. And I wasn't passionate about that job. My husband sells ski property in France and Switzerland. I held clients' hands through the legal process of buying that property, and that was very functional. It wasn't hugely exciting. It was great to help people to be able to achieve their dream, but it didn't really drive me. I've always coached and mentored informally throughout my career. So as lockdown hit, I decided to retrain as a business coach with a plan to be a confidence coach for female business owners, because I saw there was a real gap between what female business owners wanted to do and what they truly felt they were capable of doing. Because I've always informally coached, both in my corporate life, but also when I set up or started working with my husband. But the more that I studied, the more I researched, I saw the connection between our self-confidence and our sense of self-worth and self-value and our relationship with money. And that was my eureka moment.
It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, I was just having a conversation with a lady this morning about how my confidence is directly linked to how much money I've got in the bank.
Yeah.
If I feel like my business is doing really well and I've got clients that are paying me well, I feel like I can take over the world and I do anything. As soon as that starts to go down, I start feeling like I'm less worthy. And it's weird. It's really weird. I mean, I know I'm good at what I do, and I know I've got a really great product to bring to market. But there's still something in me going, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. Whereas I know I am. It's like, stupid brain, shut up. Like, it's mental.
And you're not alone. No, obviously
No.
having financial stability is obviously the key to feeling settled and confident about anything. But actually having a mindset of abundance, having belief in yourself, having belief that you are able to create the financial stability that you need, that for a lot of people creates that sense of confidence. But if you are coming from a mindset of lack or of scarcity, actually, you could have hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds in the bank and still have that feeling of fear that that money is going to be taken away from you, that you're going to be found out, that there's going to be a technological problem. My dad demonstrated this really clearly. In 1998, he could have cleared off his mortgage in one fair swoop. And he wouldn't do it because the millennium bug that was spoken about, you know, on the stroke of midnight.
That guy, I remember him.
Yeah, he was afraid that the bank would not remember he'd paid off his mortgage. So he didn't pay off his mortgage. He carried on paying the interest because of a scarcity mindset. And that really is something we have got to get to grips with, is understanding that feeling of fear that we have. Is it justified? And if it's justified, what do we need to do to take the action steps to turn it around? Because feeling fear when you've got nothing in your bank account is very different to feeling fear when you have got some money and some time and some ability to do something. And usually it's doing something, going visible, picking up the phone and speaking to the client who owes you. It's all those things that we go, no, 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 I can't do that. And that's what very often holds us in that state of lack of fear, is actually we don't want to take the action that is going to remove the fear, because we're more scared of the action than we are of what might happen if we actually go and do it. Yeah.
So true. It's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, very true. But also saying that, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and I've said this so many times before, but it's not our limiting beliefs that we do need to be scared of, because we can feel the fear and do it anyway. It's the limiting decisions that we take as a result of those limiting beliefs. And it's the limiting decisions. No, I'm not going to go live on Facebook. No, I'm not going to become more visible. No, I'm not going to speak to that client who owes me money. It's those things that create that sense of us not being able to do the very thing we need to do that could switch up the results that we are experiencing. So it is feel the fear and do it anyway, absolutely, but also recognize when you're saying no to yourself and what the cost of saying no is.
So interesting. So now, types of people that you help.
Largely, and it's slightly shifting, or it's slightly being added to, I should say. So largely it's female business owners. They have an existing business, but they recognize that there is something going on within their subconscious that is stopping them from doing the things they need to do to grow their business. But I'm now also working with corporates to support them on financial well-being. And something I am particularly passionate about, I coach a year 10 group at a school in Wiltshire as part of a financial literacy program that's being rolled out there. And I am developing an online course for teenagers. Because
that is amazing.
Wouldn't it be great that I wouldn't need to coach adults, because actually we can get to the source of the problem. The root cause, whilst a child is still young enough to not having taken all those limiting decisions. The limiting
and the risks that come when you find that financial freedom. When I say financial freedom, it's not financial freedom, it's actually financial capture or something like that. When you go off to university and you're like, yay, I'm free, I can make all my own adult money decisions. But you make the wrong ones because you don't know what you're doing. And this is where I help teenagers. Like, I help teenagers to understand how ADHD affects their money, because I didn't know I had ADHD. And my money decisions, all of the things that I did at university, landed me in £40,000 worth of debt. if I'd have had knowledge of my ADHD and how it affected my money, someone like you teaching me the basics of what I needed to do with finances and paying bills, I don't think I'd have got in that 40 grand's worth of debt. However, having said that, I may not be here right now talking to you about this. So,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really, really feel passionate about. Teenagers, start with them when they're in college, start with them when they're just off to university. Like, get the parents to pay for it before their kids go to university, to educate them on how to sort their shit out, they need it. They really do.
Absolutely. But I think part of the problem is if a parent doesn't feel confident about their relationship with money, or doesn't feel confident about their situation with money, then it's very difficult to have that conversation. But actually, when you look at the motivation, the reasons why you should be having that conversation, because you don't want your children to be replicating how you have been with money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so important. It's so important to have those conversations early. So, I'm teaching my 7-year-old about money at the moment by playing games with him in the house. So he gets to earn paper money for doing things for me, but also he can pay me to do stuff. So if he's feeling lazy and he can't be bothered to go and get his own squash, he's like, "Mummy, will you get me a glass of Ribena?" And I'm like, "What's it worth?" And we always play. And the thing that I get scared about is what happens when cash goes. And we've all taught our kids how to use cash.
Yeah.
It's not just about cash. We're going to have to teach our kids about credit cards. We're going to have to teach them about debit cards. We're going to have to teach them about, probably crypto and NFTs and all of these kind of things, because that's the future, isn't it? And it's worrying, thinking we need people to be telling our kids how to do these things, because we're not going to be able to.
But also it is about creating that sense of curiosity in children. They go off, they feel empowered to go and find the information themselves, but also to advise them that they need to speak to trusted advisors, speak to qualified advisors. And if something looks too good to be true, then actually buy into it. And I think it isn't just about teaching children by talking at them. It's teaching children by talking to them
and with them, and engaging them, actually getting them to act, not necessarily act it out, but real life scenarios. So I quite often get my son to buy dinner for us. So I'm like, "Here's £5. This is what let's go and buy something." And it's really fun. Like, he really enjoys doing it. My daughter's like, "Where's mine?" But she can't read, so it's a bit harder. but it's about engaging them and getting them to actually do things that normal adults would do.
Exactly.
And I really can't stress enough how important it is. So you're doing an amazing job by doing something like that. I really think it's definitely going to be needed.
And it's something that I am truly motivated and passionate about, because I can see from my own children, for one, but also the difference between my two children as well. They have both been raised, with parents with the same values, the same experiences, the same conversations, but they are two very different personalities when it comes to how to manage money. So helping children to understand, well, this is how you are around money. How are those behaviours supporting your goals for the future, and getting them to explore? My eldest son is very much about spending money before you've even gotten it. But actually, he has started to realise that if he wants to have driving lessons, buy himself a car, etc., we are going to be expecting him to contribute to those in some way. Because when you give children something, they don't place a value on it, because they've not been taught there's a value against it either.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
There's so much we can do as parents. We just have to. It isn't about the complicated stuff. It's about the small things, exactly as you said. You might not understand cryptocurrency, but you know the art of using a shopping list. You know the art of budgeting on a weekly basis, etc. And all those skills play in beautifully into all the things they need to be doing as they get older. So start where you feel comfortable and go from there.
Yeah, No, and it's really something that more parents need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
So well done for flying the flag,
Thank
because
you.
I think it would have saved me and my parent. It's actually just as much to protect you as a parent than it is to protect the child,
And that's exactly
because
it. Yeah.
you don't want your kid to be going off to university, going bankrupt, and you having to bail them out
Yeah.
because you didn't have children just to financially be responsible for them for the rest of your lives, did you
Absolutely.
really?
No. No.
Although I'm pretty sure that my parents still to this day think that I'm a massive drain on their finances, even though I've asked them for absolutely nothing for years. I still think, I asked my mum if I could borrow some money from her, like for something that happened with my old business before Christmas. And when I paid her back, she was absolutely astounded. She was like, "You're paying me back £600 that you borrowed from me." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what happens when you borrow money from someone." She went, I don't think I've ever ever thought about having money paid back to me that my children have borrowed. She was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "Damn it, if I'd have known I didn't have to pay it back, I wouldn't have done that." Then I felt like I had that moral responsibility that I really should pay it back. So, if somebody lends you some money, you should pay it back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't think she was necessarily expecting it in one big chunk. And I went, "Here you go." And she went, "Oh."
And that's it though, because that's one of the things I cover, in the program I've developed is actually that sense of debt. And debt is not just formal debt, credit card, bank loans or whatever. It's actually the money that you borrow from your friends, from your family. And to actually think about, if I borrow money from somebody, I have to pay it back. The best thing I can do is to actually have a little savings pot. Even if you are a 12, 13, 14-year-old, start thinking about a little savings pot, because when that time comes where you might have said, "Can you lend me a tenner? Can you lend me whatever?" You can actually go, "Well, actually, I've got this little savings pot." And to start thinking about those really good habits that are then going to serve you later on in life. And the sooner we start those good habits, the sooner they become an automatic thing that we do.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually did this with, so my son and my daughter, they get their play money, which at the end of the week, depending on how much play money they've got left, they can exchange for actual real life cash. And then I say to them, you can spend it or you can save it. So both of them have got these little piggy banks that they put their money in. In fact, this is Harriet's, because she cleared it out. She cleared it out completely, but only because, not because she spent it, but she likes playing with it. She likes counting it.
Yeah.
So she basically, like, she puts them in little stacks and like sees which ones she like, she's only 4, so she doesn't really get how much they're worth yet. But she's always like, "Mummy, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to put it in my purse." And she keeps it like either in the car, or sometimes she takes it to nursery with her. She has to leave it in the office, but she basically takes her money everywhere with her, like she's a grown up. And then we go to Sainsbury's and she's like, "Mummy, I'd like to have a Paw Patrol egg, please." And I say, "Well, you've got your money. Do you want to buy it?" And she's like, no, you can buy it for me, Mummy." And I'm like, "I'm not buying it for you. Either you buy it or you don't get it." And she's like, "All right then." So already they're kind of getting to the stage where they have to use their money for stuff. I don't want to be that person who, like, I mean, my dad bought me a car for my 17th. I hadn't even had driving lessons, and my mum went absolutely ballistic at him. She was like, "Why have you bought her this car?" And he's like, "Well, it's what you do when your kid's 17." And she was like, "No, she can save up to buy her own bloody car." And that car sat on our driveway, rusting away for 6 months, because I wasn't one of those people who, because firstly, I don't know my left from my right. That's an ADHD thing, I think. ADHD and dyslexia. I'm just like, so the driving instructors go left, and I'm like, and I'm going the wrong direction. And he's like, I did an emergency accelerate when I was supposed to do an emergency stop at one point. But yeah, so I mean, I was somebody who took a long time to pass my driving test. And this is something I'd say to parents now. Don't buy your kid a car. Make them get a job. Make them save up for it, because they will be way more dedicated to those driving lessons if they know that they have to buy that car and that they have to do it.
Yeah,
if you're just going, "Here, have it on a plate," it gives them no incentive whatsoever.
I totally agree. My son
So
turned 17 just in April, and we asked him if he wanted to have driving lessons. And he said, no, I don't need a car at the moment. But we won't buy him a car. We might
no,
contribute. So he pay half, we pay half. But at
yeah,
the moment, he's decided he doesn't want to, he left a job. He doesn't want another job at the moment. Instead, he's doing something online to make money. And I said,
okay,
that's fine. But, you know, you've
yeah,
got to recognize that you've made that
entrepreneurial,
choice. Exactly. And if if you make money from it, brilliant. If you don't make money from it, if you need money, you need to get a job, because this, you're 17. We are not doing our job as a parent if we are just
no,
literally giving it to you on a plate. And as parents, that can be quite hard. You can want to support your children, you can want to give them what they want, but actually in doing that, you're not serving them. What
no,
you're doing it for you, you're not doing it for them. And sometimes the best thing as a parent you can do is step back. And what you said about Harriet was exactly like my Sam when he was younger, my younger son. He was a big saver. He used to say, am I buying this or are you? And it would depend on the answer. If we were buying it, yes, please, I'll have it. Well, actually, no,
yeah,
you're going to buy. Oh, I don't really want it. And it allows them to make that decision. Do
yeah,
they really want it? Or is it just a little bit of instant gratification? And we have to instill that in our children, even if it makes us feel uncomfortable, because they will only learn from us saying, you've got to do it yourself. You've got to be
yeah.
independent. You've got to work out where your money is coming from and what you want to do with it. Because unless we do that, we are really not serving our children in the way that
No,
we should be.
no. And I think I've worked so much on how I work with my children with money. Like they understand it, they understand its value. We have conversations a lot about budgets, and rather than me saying, oh, we can't afford that, like I guess my parents did, and
Yeah,
it was the whole money doesn't grow on trees, and
yeah,
that kind of mindset. I don't want my kids to have that. So I say to them, we haven't budgeted for that. It's not in our budget. If we need to have it, then it's something that we save for. And they really like that.
yeah,
And it's the constant reminder that things do cost money.
yeah,
And it's not, they don't get all of their things for free.
yeah.
So I said, so Ben came home from school yesterday, and he said, "Oh, Mummy, I've got a Titanic day. I've got to dress up like an Edwardian." And I was like, what a bloody hell does an Edwardian look like? So I googled it, and I'm like, okay, like Peaky Blinders type thing. Went through all the costumes with Ben, and he said I don't want to wear any of them. So I said, well, if you don't want to wear any of them, I'm not going to pay for one for you. And he said, oh, but then I won't be the same as my friends. And I said, well, if you want mummy to buy it for you, mummy will buy it for you because it's for school. But if
Yeah.
you don't want, if you're not going to wear it, then I'm not going to bother. And he said, no, 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 no. I tell you, he said, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it. I'll pay for half of it, and you pay for half of it. I was
Oh,
like, oh, he's so cute. And I was
yeah,
like, I don't need him to. And same with Harriet. So, like the other day, well, she's been saving since Christmas for a bike. She was convinced she wanted a Paw Patrol bike. And I said to her, you need to save for it. And she said, okay, that's fine. So she's been saving her pocket money every week. And I came across, she had about £15 saved, maybe 20. And I came across a Paw Patrol bike on Facebook Marketplace that was secondhand with a helmet and stabilizers that was like 17 quid. And I thought, do you know what? She's worked so hard to save that money. I'm
yeah,
going to buy it for her.
yeah.
So I let her keep the money, and she was
Oh,
just like, oh, and it was lovely. It was
yeah,
really nice. And I felt great because I'd got her something that I knew she'd
yeah,
been working really hard towards. She got to keep her money. And she also kind of found that value and
yeah,
that kind of giving thing as well. So
exactly.
yeah, you just got to be on top of these things with your kids and actually have the open conversations. And this is one of the reasons why I've launched an app that is completely dedicated to talking about finances, because I want people to talk about it. I
Yeah,
want people to be able to go, hey, I'm in £30,000 worth of debt. And, I could do with talking to some people about it, because when we're doing all of these things on our own, it's hard.
yeah, I
When we've
agree.
got a community around us that can cheerlead and support us, that's when things really start to happen.
So true. And you know what you're doing with the app, you know, is amazing, because it is, first of all, shining a spotlight on a subject that so many people shy away from talking about. But if you don't feel you've got somewhere to go, then that has an even bigger effect on your ability to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
And I think that is where the damage, you know, is done, is when you feel you are hopeless and you feel you are helpless. And when you come together with other people and you realize that other people are, you know, are facing a very similar position, but also people who may have gone through it already, who've got some really good advice to give you to help you get out of that situation. So encouraging people to talk about money is something that is beneficial, not just to the individual, but to a much, much wider community. And in doing so, we are creating that real ripple effect that other people are going to benefit from as well. So, you know, huge kudos to you for what you are doing, because, you know, nobody is really pulling all those threads together. You've done just that.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it more accessible for people to learn about finances, to talk about them, to get everybody on the same page. And I feel like, yes, of course, you can go and follow a money blogger or whatever on Twitter or on Instagram or, you know, TikTok, but that's just one person's opinion. Really, to properly look after your finances, you need like a world of people helping you to do all those things. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. And of course, you're going to be joining us there as an expert as well. So I'm really pleased about that. Lesley, where can people find you?
Probably the easiest place to go to is my website, because my website also has a number of free resources. So if people, you know, want support, you know, with their relationship with money, you go to my website, which is the Money Confidence Academy. Click on resources, and there's a whole plethora, you know, of information there, from assessments through to PDFs to quizzes, etc., and all my social icons, etc., are there. So it's easy.
Amazing. And I'm hoping that you're going to put some of those in the Mad About Money app as well. I think that'd be a good place to put them, for sure.
On my hand.
Amazing. Oh, well, it's been absolutely lovely to have you.
Thank you.
Really looking forward to seeing more of you in the app as well. For anybody who is watching this in the app, you are in the right place. For anybody who is watching it or listening to it on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube, you are most definitely in the wrong place. You need to download Mad About Money, go and listen to these podcasts in there, go and spend some time in the app, go and have a look at the experts, see the sorts of things that we have on offer. There's loads of freebies that you can download to support you in your money journey. You can also join the discount club, which helps you to save on your everyday living expenses. And it's just an all-round nice place to be, with lots of lovely supportive people helping each other in their money journey. So I've been Maddy Alexander-Grout. I probably still will be next week. This is Mad About Money, and we will see you next time.